But now let's have a look at federal politics. And Anthony Albanese is joining a growing chorus of politicians, both federal and state, who want to see enforceable age limits on social media. Have a look.
Parents are worried sick about what their kids have access to online. It is a major social issue in this country. We want to respond positively to the request from parents that we do something about this. We want to make sure that any measures that are put in place are effective, because one of the concerns which is there is that age protocols may be circumvented by users.
Okay, let's bring in Sky News host Liz Storer and contributor Jo Hildebrand. Jo, in a sense, wouldn't this be a relief to parents that they don't have to say to their kids, you're banned from TikTok? In their young teenage years, they can say, well, the government's banning this.
That's right. This is an absolute godsend. Good on the PM for doing this. Chris Minns also came out very early, the Premier of New South Wales, and said, yep, I'm all on board. I cannot punch a hole in it. I cannot see, I've been saying for years now, I cannot see pretty much any benefit from social media, certainly no benefit which outweighs the downside to it. It's been an absolute force for destruction right across the globe, particularly in the West, and I think it has really harmed politics, and I think it has harmed public life. The difference
We're not talking about bad
no. But I was about to say, the difference is that adults, what I'm saying is I've seen it do harm to adults who have got hides as tough as rhinoceroses. Just imagine the harm that it is doing. We don't have to. We've seen the suicides. We've seen the bullying. We've seen, that's right. And again, all sorts of things, even just kids, that's the extreme end, obviously, and that's horrendous enough. But, kids being addicted to it, dragged into it by the algorithm, it rewarding the focus, it rewarding extreme behaviour and just dragging kids in so that they're zombies, distracting them when they're at school. We know that it reduces cognitive function when kids are at school, let alone when they're at home. This is no place for children. It's no place for adults, and it's definitely no place for children.
One of the stories as a journalist that will never leave me is interviewing the parents of a 10-year-old who took her own life after she was cyberbullied so badly. And of course, bullying is terrible in the playground, but the cyberbullying, it follows the children into their bedrooms. The parents don't know what's going on. Liz, it only makes sense to have an enforceable ban here, raising the age limit to 16.
I can't imagine any rational person disagreeing. My biggest question is what took so long? We have had such comprehensive data for so long that has been screaming at us worldwide that the effect of social media on children is massively detrimental, socially, mentally, you name it. It is no good. So why now, better late than never, but why now is the government suddenly taking measures? And I've said it before, my only question mark here is how on earth you can enforce such a ban without really railroading absolutely everybody else's rights. We heard the Morrison government talk in late 2021.
So are you for this or against this?
No, like I said, no rational person would oppose a ban of children accessing social media, especially if they visited any amount of the study that's been done. But in order to enforce such a ban, we are unquestionably looking at what it will require, and that is going to mean quite a few rights, matters of privacy for adults, because everyone is going to have to prove that they are who they say they are in order to jump online, in order to prove I am not a child, I am old enough to access
You know what? I wouldn't need to show them my ID. I'd just have to show them my wrinkles up close.
But even then you could be lying,
is that not a good thing? If people are going to go and behave like monsters online, should they at least not be accountable for that? I mean, that's what free speech is. Free speech is not the ability to be able to go and anonymously bully someone to death or troll someone you don't like without having
but as I've discussed before, there is a lot of people online who aren't bullies, who aren't trolls and have chosen to remain anonymous because they know speaking their truth these days, usually conservative beliefs, they will cop it in their public life,
but that's a small price to pay, isn't
life.
it, for everyone else's safety? And it does remove anonymous trolls as well.
It does, but again, these things are always done in the name of safety, and often at the time we cannot see the effects of down the road and what it will will mean for people who then no longer have the right to remain anonymous.
All right, let's have a look at this next topic. Labor's travel expenses once again in the spotlight after revelations in the Oz today that taxpayers will fund $450 million for 2 new Boeing 737s to fly the PM, well, his dog Toto, and the government around. Joe, look. This is an
Come on, Joe. How are you going to defend this?
It's not a great look in the middle of a cost of living crisis.
And after a budget that everyone's agreed doesn't actually relieve that crisis.
But it can't, because it can't be inflationary. But again, this is something the PM and the government and the Governor-General, who are all these dignitaries who are sharing these 2 jets, I think we all agree that they do need jets to be able to get around.
They've got
don't do normal
Why
jets.
luxury
The jets
jets?
are 20 years old.
Why luxury jets?
Jets are 20 years old. They're at the end of their life, and the government had a choice by either leasing 2 jets for 12 years or buying them outright, and it found out that buying them outright was actually cheaper. So it was actually cheaper to buy these 2 jets. The government actually saved $100 million and actually bought the jets.
Luxury jets. Luxury jets.
And
you know what,
instead
Liz,
of actually
this is
leasing
basically, they need it. It's basically as essential as bread. These jets, they can't live without them.
Well,
The question mark is the luxury. Nobody is how dare they get around. Although, if they want to practice what they preach, they should all be on bicycles or some sort of emissions-free bus, because they expect everyday people to pay dearly, and we all are, for the green dream that they're foisting onto everyone, while they spend almost $500 million of our money to buy 2 luxury jets that will spew out emissions for decades to come. Do me a favour.
Don't you wish they would also have to catch Qantas or Virgin flights or Jetstar and see how many cancellations there are?
Right,
and maybe they then fix up.
Fly Bonza. Oh, that's right.
That would make them politicians of the people.
Yeah.
All right, unions are pushing for Labor's controversial right to disconnect laws. Remember, these are the laws that give employees the right to disconnect, not to answer their boss's phone once they've got home at night. Well, the Oz reporting that the ACTU wants Fair Work to rule out bosses being disorganised as a reasonable excuse to contact workers after hours to perform unpaid work. Joe, is this fair enough?
Well, I think the example that Michelle O'Neill, the ACTU president, gave was, I thought, a pretty reasonable one, which is a boss can't, realise suddenly that there's something they were meant to do during the week and they've totally forgotten, and call an employee at 4:50 on a Friday and say, right, you've got to spend your weekend doing this. Having said that, the number of times I've had editors ask, say, oh my God, we forgot to stuff this up. Can you fix this? Blah, blah.
You said, well, the work to disconnect.
And that's right. And of course I say yes, but I guess I'm not. And we are not. I mean, the sort of workers that unions represent are not necessarily the higher end kind of white collar workers, where you are expected to do whatever it takes and you're usually remunerated and rewarded accordingly. These are workers who might be, say, for example, teachers who don't want to have to respond to every single email they get from a cranky parent until 9 o'clock at night, which frankly I can assure you they do anyway. So I think it's more about just saying employees have the right to say no, to change the kind of expectation. But again, I think there'll be a lot of workers sort of at our end and our industries and professionals who would say, well, what are you talking about? And I think also if you're asking to work from home, then the right to disconnect suddenly becomes a very
Liz, I feel like the younger generation don't even need these laws, because try getting hold of anyone under 30 after hours and they're not picking up their phone.
Oh, exactly. They're well aware of their rights and they are laying down the law, which is why a lot of employers do not want to hire them, because very different work ethic in the younger generations. But I just think this is getting absolutely ridiculous, because, of course, it's so subjective. I mean, what you might class as, oh, this is because you have been disorganised, Shari, and as my boss, this is your fault. And whereas you know the backstory, you know that maybe a client's called up last minute, asked for something, therefore it's not your fault at all, and now we have to deliver on something to a deadline, etc. and so on. This is just going to mean so much he said, she said type action for anyone who actually wants to exercise these laws and take them for a ride. It's going to get ridiculous.
Maybe we should have it so it goes both ways. Okay, oh, g'day, boss. Yeah, sorry. Look, I know it's 5 o'clock on a Friday, but I forgot to do all that stuff you asked me. Would you mind just, doing it yourself and getting it back to me on Monday morning? Thanks, mate.
All right, Joe Hildebrand, Liz Storer, thanks so much for joining me.
Cheers.